Hey folks, we are live. Give me a second to check our AV. I hear you. TJ, say something, please.
Hello, it's Tech Check.
Yeah, I think we are good. Good to go. All right. Chat room, if you have audio video issues, not being able to hear us, please let us know. And let me lock some more things in. All right, here we go. Cool. So, welcome. Good morning if you're joining us in North America. Good afternoon, good evening in other parts of the world. Welcome one and all to CodeItLive. We are a bunch of developers here. We're developer advocates here at Progress Software, and we are here to build stuff that we are passionate about. I am Sam Basu out of Pennsylvania, and with me I have
TJ VanToll out of Lansing, Michigan.
Yeah. All right, so why don't we start the stream on a morbid note? TJ, how are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I got to see Lansing in the national news
Yeah, I
yesterday.
saw
That
that. I
was
saw that.
fun.
So I'm pulling up our coronavirus numbers. Let's see, we are at about 26,500. I think Michigan is a little. It's like a race you don't want to win. Michigan is at 28,000. Yeah.
Yeah,
So let's just all stay safe. Like they say, like this too shall pass. Okay, and how's the weather up in your neck of the woods?
stopped snowing.
That's good.
Has it stopped snow? Has it stopped there, or did we
Just
send it your way
you did
still?
send it our way yesterday. It stopped with just a few like snow showers. It's not accumulating a whole lot more this morning than what it was overnight. So we
Yeah,
are holding up.
that's what we had. That's what we had too. Is just it wasn't anything of any significance, but still made it kind of miserable considering it's the middle of April.
All right. Okay, so we are in this mode where we are trying to jump into topics that we don't know much about, and we are kind of trying to teach each other. I think teachers started it with React, and we are rolling on with some Xamarin. We did something last Thursday where we just kind of talked about Xamarin overall, the ecosystem, how do you get started, and let's kind of build up on that. So TJ, let me ask you this: like, did any of your feelings about Xamarin change? Like, was it interesting, like where we started up?
It was definitely interesting seeing some of this stuff hands on. Like I I had known sort of the high level Xamarin approach, but I'd never actually I was somewhat more fascinated with just seeing C# in action too, just because it's a language I've never played with, and seeing how similar Xamarin is to actually native script, at least from like a markup XML type perspective.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I'm definitely curious if we take this to like the next level, what this is going to look like.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And between like NativeScript and Xamarin, like the UI stack is actually very, very similar. It's all about writing an abstracted layer which gets translated into native UI at runtime. And I think the syntax, the visual tree buildup is actually very similar. I am actually a little scared with you watching me type C sharp because I'm not a language guy. I mean, I get around, but like I'm not on like the latest and greatest. Like I don't jump on the latest features. I don't try to use them until I feel comfortable. So you might be seeing things that I use that are like 10 years old, but it's at least readable
the,
code, right?
the good news is I won't know the difference, so it's I'm probably a good audience for this then.
All right, so let's start off. So this is where we began last time round. Hang on, I have your floating Skype window here, which I don't like. Let me get that out of the way. All right.
Hey, giving people behind the scenes view.
Yeah.
Hey, Ivana. Ivana just popped into the chat.
Hello, hello. Okay, so this is where we started. We talked about the tools, like how do you get started? You get Visual Studio on Windows, or you get Visual Studio on Mac, and One of these days, maybe one thing we can do, TJ, is kind of look into the platform reach for Xamarin, because this is one thing that it really is good at. It started off being just Android and iOS, and that still is the majority of how you build your mobile apps. But the platform reach really has grown by leaps and bounds, and part of it is like this is open source, so people can take this and kind of write their own like renderers for it. So we actually have Xamarin powered apps. I don't know if they listed here. I mean, obviously Windows, but then have you heard of Tizen?
Yes.
So anytime you buy a Samsung device that is not running Android, it's running Tizen. So your smart TV, your refrigerator probably runs Tizen. They make the Gear watches. Those are pretty cool. And some phones and some tablets. So Xamarin Forms works beautifully on Tizen, which we can actually dive into one of these days. Then we are, so essentially the UI stack of Xamarin being like XAML and C#, we can take it to like old school like Windows desktop applications. We could actually take this to the web in some ways. So TJ, you know about Silverlight, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, we're not supposed to say the S
Good old
word anymore.
Silverlight.
So, like those of us who actually did spend any time with Silverlight, we loved the dev experience. Like the tools were very mature, it was productive, but the whole plugins model was never going to work. And we remember the history. Like Steve Jobs wrote that scathing letter where he said Flash sucks. And yes, it had some security problems, but the whole plugins model kind of died. But we are starting to see XAML back on the web a little bit, and just done better this time, and that's through WebAssembly. So that's what all of the higher level languages like Rust and C++ and C# and F#, they're running natively in the browser, and you can actually compile .NET in the browser and run it natively. So the platform reach with Xamarin Forms is actually really nice. So maybe we'll dive into those one of these days. But this is, again, the docs site. I keep reiterating this. The docs for Xamarin Forms are actually really nice. Like Xamarin Forms is what we're talking about. That's the abstraction. That's what we want to do so that I don't have to learn much about iOS or Android. I can write cross-platform code as much as I can. Okay, so let's start. And I honestly, TJ, didn't even touch this project since last Thursday when you and me were building this. So let's open it up, and this was Xamarin 101. Today maybe we can take the
No,
next
that's
few steps.
good.
Okay, so let me refresh my memory where we stand. I think we were pulling down, like we did a hello world type thing, right? I think this was the JSON source that we were using. This one has like posts and albums and comments. So I think we pulled down the posts. So essentially when you do an HTTP GET, you get a bunch of JSON back from this random URL, and it lets you consume it. So that's what I think we did. So let's go back and look. Okay, so we had our Xamarin project. So this is our .NET Standard library. So maybe today we dive into a little bit of some of the next steps towards building your app. Like how do you do navigation? What are some of the layouts that you can use? How do you cache data? Maybe how do you have some structure in your app? And how do you maybe I think that URL actually does that. RESTful endpoint does let you do posts. Yeah, it says all HTTP methods are supported. So maybe we'll try doing a post. Yeah. So TJ.
Also, yeah. I'm also very curious about styling as well.
Yes.
How all of that works.
So let's start small, and we shall see how we go. So where did we stop? So here's our app, and this is where we start. So we did not do anything with the app lifecycle. That's fine. We are starting on a main page. And this was our posts thing, which matched the data that's coming down from the server. And this was our main page. And I think we were just making a straight out call to that URL, pulling down some data, and just showing it in a list view. So this was our list view. Oh, I remember we pulled down the Telerik rad list again, which you don't have to, but it's just nicer. It's got features that are missing in the default list view. Okay, so, I think I remember where we left off. I was trying to set the text color. So let's actually run this thing. And let's start with debugging. Oh, I remember I was trying to show you hot reloading, because on the web side of things, you actually have this real nice. Like, you should not be able to like build and redeploy your whole app over and over again. It should pick up what you're doing. So let's see.
And I'm curious, while we're waiting for this to start up, when you style things, is things like
Okay.
the place?
Yes and no. There's a whole family of things you can do. It's called XAML styles, and the code and the structure for this app can actually go very deep. You have very granular control over not just the visual rendering, but like each of the transforms. Like when a UI element changes shape or moves around, like all of those things can be defined in styles. It's actually very, very powerful. And you get some tools, additional tools to do that, not just Visual Studio. But it's funny that you mentioned CSS coming from a web background. So the answer is yes. And you have to remember, people who are doing Xamarin Forms, a lot of us come from very heavy .NET backgrounds, and .NET as in desktop. The folks who do web, they are fine with it. But folks who do desktop have some reservations, again, bringing in like web stuff like CSS. So last year, I think,
well,
yeah.
It doesn't have to be CSS specifically. I'm just wondering, like, really, let's say I have a bunch of labels that I want to look the same, right? Like
oh, totally.
would I
Totally.
have to create like a custom component
Yeah, so
to do that,
what we
or
call is, those are called like resources, and you can totally have a style that you share across all the pages of your app. So that's perfectly doable. You can bring in resources, like if you're doing like any localization, any particular styles or fonts that you want to bring in, all of that is very doable. So it is a very mature system. It's just not web-based. But we actually did take a stab last year where you can actually style some XAML with CSS. And it got mixed reviews from the community. Some of us, like, it is XAML styles behind the scenes, but the topmost layer was CSS, and you could actually do like less and Sass. Yes, you can. It's an option that you can exercise to style your XAML with CSS, but it's not a natural fit. Make sense?
gotcha.
All right. So, okay, so we did do a post or a get, and I see my data down here. So let's see. This is what we should be able to do. So if I change this to blue and I'm debugging, save. Uh-oh, it blanked out. I'm not sure why. Hang on, I got a fail thing.
Apparently blue is the wrong color. Does that tag closed, or?
Yeah. Hang on, let me try. What do you see?
Did you set up the SpongeBob?
Yeah. So that's
thing?
confused SpongeBob, and he's gonna sit next to me and continue giving me anxiety until I get this working. Okay, so what is not working? Let's go into this, and it's called hot reload is what I'm looking for.
So is hot reload on by default,
yeah, that's
or
what
do
I'm
you
gonna
have to
check.
do something?
No, I think like, so it used to be a in preview thing, but I think they have enabled it on default. So on a Mac, check enable hot reload is on. And then we have this thing called the linker stuff, which is like how it's actually bundling up the resources for like .NET type things to push into your iOS app. So let me check. Oh, and I think I may want to get the latest Xamarin bits. I think I have the latest Visual Studio. I have an App Store thing. I think I saw. Oh boy, Xcode has has an update out. I don't want to do that right now. It could be that, and it could be because like this is the downside of doing Xamarin or NativeScript, any type of mobile development. You kind of have to move with iOS and Android because that's where the latest bits are, and the IDEs just update themselves. So if we don't want to do that, let's try. So this is
guessing though, if you haven't
no, go on.
updated Xamarin, I can't imagine the latest Xcode would be the problem either.
But I was actually going to update Xamarin in case that was the thing. But let me check.
I see.
So, oh, actually, I was on it. See, it's on. It's
Actually,
a simple setting.
That's a nice bit of UI there within Visual Studio. Like that'd be really nice to have. And like, there's some like in some like Visual Studio Code will now do in your package.json. If you have like if there's a newer version of a package, if you hover over the version number, it'll show you that. But that little bit of UI where there's just a nice little icon there right in the file explorer or whatever it's called is kind of nice. I want that for my package JSON.
All right, let's check if I have everything right. I mean, I don't see anything else. SDK locations. It's just one checkbox. I might risk and just upgrading the Xamarin Forms just in case.
But if you do just like a full rebuild, I know sometimes like when hot reload fails, if you just like build everything from scratch again as like a sanity check, just to see what happens. It's just as an idea.
Folks in the chat room, if you're watching, I'm getting old. I get stressed by that SpongeBob guy. So if you can help me out as to why hot reload may be not working, that'll be nice. I mean, we can move past it. It's nice to be able to see it. I accept your licenses and your world domination views.
So your dependencies here, while we're waiting for this to go, so Xamarin Essentials would probably be like that's probably Xamarin proper, right? Like most of what you need.
Xamarin Essentials, actually, we can go into this today. It's the thing that lets you have C# based API access to iOS and Android. Okay. So that probably depends on Xamarin Forms. But I think like it failed to upgrade because of they are compatible. Why did you fail?
The update failed?
Yeah. Well, no, actually it did update. I'm sorry. It did update. It's just with warnings. I was thinking like it failed. All right. So let's fire this up again. Because I think you need to be in debug mode to be able to do this. So let's see.
Do you need to update Xamarin Essentials also, or is that?
No, I'm not using this. That's for the APIs, which we'll get into.
Okay.
See, now it is blue, so my text is blue. So it's not like I typed in something wrong. Can I make it purple? Save. Nope, it's just blanking out. I don't know. It's not being able to paint that page somehow, which is weird. Can I?
Definitely seems like a problem with the hot reload.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah. Everything else is functional. Can I do like a background color, I think? What is it? Beige. Okay. Save. No. Okay.
Or change like the text to like a static string instead of a dynamic one. I don't know.
Well, then it won't quite bind, and yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay. Well, I'm just suggesting alternate debugging steps that aren't related to like visual styling things. But
yeah. All right, one last try, and then we're gonna get the confused SpongeBob off because he's stressing me out.
Yeah, we can just go with full piles. That's fine too.
All right, come on, Visual Studio. Okay, so yeah, it's picking up whatever I type. It's just not in real time. So you got a bunch of hellos and the beige background it picked up. Okay. All right. Just believe me that it works. All right. It does work. And they have a thing called, I can show you. They have a thing called hot reload, which is what this one is. And they also have a thing called hot restart, which is when you are actually deploying to, hang on, let's get this SpongeBob guy off. Let's talk about hot restart. So this is when you are actually deploying to a device. Android or iOS, you can actually deploy your entire app to a device, and then when you change something in your markup, you don't have to do a full deploy. It can just pick up just that portion of code, and they're trying to improve on this. Like, you should be able to change more and more things. Even some like C# like code is coming in, not just markup, and you're able to do a quicker restart of the app in your device than you would if you had to do like a full build. So they're trying to work on this. This is still in preview, but it's something that is definitely on the cards to help speed up that process. All right, so we have our label that's showing a list of posts, so that much is working. Let's try to clean this up a little bit, because I think what we did last week was really bare bones basics. So let's upgrade Xamarin Essentials just in case, because this puppy depends on the Xamarin Forms package. Yes, I accept licenses. All right. It updated also with warnings. All right. So let's see where we stand. We are at a place where we were just pulling down stuff, and this is bad. So let's try refactoring things a little bit so we have some sanity, and then we'll build up some more pages. And TJ, you can keep asking me questions while I do this. So,
well, you're saying this is bad. Can you explain why what you're doing is bad? Because I don't see anything that looks particularly bad to me.
Not so far, but this is okay when we start, right? Essentially, it's just one page, and we have our data very closely mixed up with the UI, so it's not very testable in terms of like patterns. So I'm trying to just clean things up a little bit, and we can keep building on this. So first up, I'm going to add maybe a new class, and let's call this constants. And in here, I'm going to make this a static thing. So a static is a C# thing to say don't keep on initializing more and more instances of this class. Just keep it one singleton instance, and you can also write singleton. So like throughout the life cycle of the app, it just follows one thing. So like one instance of it.
Yep, Java has static. I think JavaScript classes have static now too. I'm pretty sure. Don't use JavaScript has static actually also now.
Good.
But I don't think it has static classes. Maybe Chad can correct me. There are definitely static methods in JavaScript classes though.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to define. It's not liking something. Oh, hang on. What's the syntax for this? I'm going to look this up real quick. Because this is how I code. I have to go back and look at stuff I have written myself to figure out what did I do wrong.
See, I usually do the look it up on Stack Overflow, and there's probably a good 100 Stack Overflow pages that I've viewed 50, 100 times because I don't commit it to memory.
All right, so here's me defining a constants public static class, and then it just needs to be static. Okay, sorry, Visual Studio, jeez. So
you'd think that would be implied if it was in a
static.
So
essentially every method or everything that's open. Why is my SpongeBob still on?
He's just really into this.
Yeah. Where's my mouse gone?
All right, SpongeBob is gone. You successfully killed SpongeBob.
I killed SpongeBob.
So would you not capitalize the constant name here? Like all caps for the.
So this I think varies from person to person. I like it. What's this called? Like Pascal casing. So anything that is private to a class, we normally have it like lowercase, but then anything that is public can be Pascal casing. And like, I see what you're saying. Like some folks will mark the constants like with all caps. I think it just comes down to a preference.
Okay.
All right, so I have a constants file which we can keep on adding more things to it. And this one I don't like. So let's fix up a few things. First thing is, this is where some of the design patterns come in. Like this is fine, but we are mixing in things too closely. So ideally, what we would like is our UI layer to be a little dumb. And so essentially, there's a pattern called model view view model. Which, let me see, what's the best? I mean, there's a lot of content online for this, a lot of explanations, a lot of really good tutorials. So like do a search on MVVM and it'll show you what it is. So it's a design pattern. So it's model, view, and view model. So the model is essentially the thing that controls, that's your data. That's essentially your bridge to whatever backend you have. Your view is what the user sees, and your view model is the orchestration behind the views. So you're kind of decoupling a little bit. So that's what we would like to do. So first thing I would like to do here is create a couple of folders here.
Yeah, we had MVVM in the like no additional JavaScript framework version of NativeScript. Right. And I think largely because the team that wrote that NativeScript came from a XAML background. So that's why like a lot of the markup, a lot of the structure adhered to a lot of those same conventions.
Right. So let me go add a few things.
And I mean, MVVM, like it makes sense to me, but it's also it can be a little bit verbose also.
And I've seen like we would do like a single day, like all day hackathon, and some of the MVVM is actually built into Xamarin Forms. But if you were really in a team setting where you want that top-notch testability and you want unit tests, there's a lot of help in terms of MVVM frameworks. There are like at least 4 or 5 really good frameworks, but they can be a little heavy-handed. So I've seen like folks start with an MVVM framework and they don't understand all of the moving pieces, and it gets a little confusing if you're trying to build an app in a day. So again, if you're an indie developer, and like you and me both build mobile apps, I mean, my 2 cents is it should be pain driven. If you are struggling to keep your sanity, then bring in some frameworks. But otherwise, what's out of the box is really should be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got that, and in the model, we should add a new class. So empty class, let's just call it, because we're dealing with posts. All right, so that's my post manager. Now what I'm going to do is bring out some of the things we did here out to the class. So I'm not having the UI deal with the data getting or posting part of it. So let's plug these 2 things back in here, and it's probably going to ask for a few things, like my using statements.
So the in the post manager here, those are now, to get the terminology correct, are those properties of post manager?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So anything that you see is like this one here is a public property, so any other class will be able to use that. And this one here is, I mean, this is a constructor, but I am about to define like a public method, so you can invoke that from outside.
And if you don't say public, is it assumed to be private?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I'm just cleaning up a little bit, putting stuff out. So here I have a public thing, let's say it's get posts. It is going to return a task of the type a collection of posts, and instead of doing this, I would like to go to constants.post RESTful API. Maybe I should call it endpoint, because otherwise it's just what's an API.
Yeah, naming is hard.
Naming is hard.
Yeah, like API endpoint.
Yeah. All right. So that's good. If the response is successful, we're going to capture the, that's not good. I lost connection to my keyboard and my magic, what's it called? The keypad, trackpad.
A magic mouse.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, it's fine.
is it called the magic trackpad?
No, it's just called the trackpad.
I
So
like the magic. I had the trackpad for a while, but I prefer the mouse.
yeah,
I couldn't
I
get
like the
used to the
trackpad.
trackpad.
So this is what I have. So I like it. It's very smooth and it doesn't make any clicking noise. It's nice. I know they are bringing the older keyboard back into the Macs, which is nice. Oh, I see you have the mouse.
Yeah, I don't know, something about it. I never got used to the trackpad. I had one for a while, and I just gave it away to, actually, my wife uses one, so
Yeah,
I think she has the one I used to use. I just couldn't. I gave it a shot, and it didn't work.
yeah, makes sense. Okay, so in here, I can now take out the stuff. So we are keeping it a little clean. So what we would have to do here is, that's my client, and I would actually instantiate the post manager. But this one's a different namespace. So this is where the namespaces come in. So this one is of the namespace model. So I have to bring that in. So in here, let's do using Xamarin 101 dot model. Okay, and you had pointed out like there are things we are using here that are not needed, so it's grayed out, so we can take those out. So in here, now we are doing things a little more cleaner.
And I imagine too, like, one of the things I liked about Java is, like, because you have some of these typings, there's like built-in ways of doing refactoring into like the editor itself. And I assume like C# Xamarin would have something like that as well. Like if you changed an API and just wanted it to change all your code automatically to use it.
It'll do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we are newing up our post manager. And here, I don't need the client anymore because I'm not doing HTTP client from inside my view. And initialize component is fine. This one will have to change to being this guy post manager dot get. So just a little cleanup, and now I have issues because it wants to return something.
Does
Oh, I see.
C# / Xamarin have the concept of like dependency injection?
Yes.
Can you go? Because I know some some Java people would swear by, you don't create like a post REST manager. You'd instead create it as a instantiable class and then like dependency inject it into your main page. Is that sort of a thing in the C# world as well?
Yeah, you definitely could. What I'm doing is the simpler thing to do, and
Yeah.
I think this is there are ongoing discussions to make it nicer. Like this is where like the app starts up, and like iOS project will have some delegates, so I think you can bring it in, but you'll have to hand code everything right now. They are looking to change up the thing, like how you instantiate things and how you bring things in. If you're doing an ASP.NET project, it's much more easier to do DI than it is with Xamarin, but it's about to change, I think, in the next future or in the next few months. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been the world's biggest fan of dependency injection anyways. Like,
yeah, me neither.
So, but I'm just curious what like your average person would do there. So,
Yep. Okay, so I'm doing something very wrong, and Visual Studio is shouting at me. Oh no.
Are you returning
Yeah.
some?
How about that? Oh, finally, sanity. Okay, so does that compile?
Looks like it does.
Yeah. And let's fire it up.
Yeah, it's pretty clean. It's funny to me seeing more C# of how much all of these languages nowadays just sort of steal the best features from each other. Like, I feel like 20 years ago, it was a lot harder to move from one language to another. And nowadays, like if you're writing Swift, if you're writing TypeScript, if you're writing C#, uh, heck, even if you're writing Java, like it's there's still differences. It's still easy, but like there are a shocking number of similarities between these things at this point.
True, true, absolutely true. And hey, look, oh, I didn't break anything.
Hey,
So we refactored a little bit, and we still have our data back, which is good. Did my SpongeBob show up? Not yet.
no SpongeBob.
No. Oh no. Where are you, SpongeBob? We got to get our GIF game up. Chat room, you're being very quiet. If you want to chime in, please do.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about Xamarin, we can take this any direction you want to go. So I know I have lots of questions, but if you have anything that's on your mind, anything you've been dying to know about C#, Xamarin,
There you go.
let us know.
I got my SpongeBob. All right. Enough of that. So let's. Where is my mouse pointer? Let me turn off the preview, so I'm saving some precious resources here. Okay. So what do? We just refactored that. So the other thing we don't have working is like we shouldn't just be starting here in the main page. So what I'm going to do is first thing is move this posts thing back into the model. And let's see if I can drag and drop and what that does. Okay, so that moved off.
And you'd expect it to like auto refactor like your imports and such?
Probably. Let's see. Oh, wait a second. What did I do? Oh, it's just model. And then this guy already is part of the model's namespace, so it'll just pick up. So we have our models in the model folder. That's good. Now, we don't have a view model yet, which we can create. Let's create a view in here, and then I'm just going to move our view into that other view. So we have some structure. So let's do new file and forms.
Now is the Xamarin world, would you normally group by function or feature? So model views, view model features. Would you more typically do that? Or like if this were a large app, would you be creating like a main page folder and putting everything related to like the main page in that folder? Or does it sort of depend?
It depends, yeah. Hang on 1 second. Sorry. Yeah, I think it really depends, like what you're trying to do. Like you can do like a master detail thing, and then you can have like like children pages. But if your pages are not too complicated, it's okay to just put them all together in a views folder. Is that what you're answering? You were cutting up a little bit on Skype.
Oh yeah, just basically wondering if like it's more common to create views folders, or whether you create like home page, about page.
Yeah, more of the models view models folder, just to kind of keep it clean.
Okay.
Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you. So this one here is a brand new page, right? So this one is post list. It doesn't have any content yet, which we are going to add stuff into this. So let's, because if I come back to not AppXaml, I meant appxaml.cs, and if I change this main page to post list, why is it not liking it? Maybe I just need to do a build. Oh, it's actually debugging still. All right, stop Visual Studio. Stop.
The partial keyword up in there, is that meaning like you're subclassing application, but just like implementing part of the
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
All right, so it's not liking something. What is it that you don't like?
Is it not picking up on the, like, do you need to add an import of
Yeah, the views
host
thing.
list?
Yeah, but it should still pick up. Let's give it the views.
I'm going to call it an import and not a using, just because thinking in
Let's do
JavaScript,
this.
TypeScript.
Okay, can you do a build now?
I still think the namespace stuff is a little bit overkill.
It can be for what we're doing, but like for really big projects, it helps kind of clean things up, because you could essentially put everything, like some functionality into a namespace, and just kind of abstract that away into a separate project, so that way you still have the reference of what you're trying to do. It's just not in your face, and you bring in namespaces as you need to, if that makes sense.
It does. I just think it's still kind of overkill.
Yeah.
Like, even in big JavaScript apps, everything just, it works.
Yeah.
There's no namespaces, and there's other ways of just making sure your code doesn't conflict.
True.
I just hate the having to indent every single class you write starts with that namespace line and has to get indented one line, or one tab, or one
Yep.
space in, which is just annoying.
Yeah, and it's also true for sorry, my throat isn't working with me today, but it's also true for your markup namespaces.
Okay.
Like, see, every page has
Because,
its
like,
namespace.
I see. So, like, if you wrote, like, presumably you could write like custom UI components in C#.
Mm-hmm.
Like, presume that's probably how, like, the Telerik components are written. And I guess you use a namespace to, like, bring them in so you can use them in your XAML, correct?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
exactly. All right.
Okay, that makes sense.
So let's bring out what we just did. I'm just trying to clean up. We don't have to do this, but it's just for some sanity. And I'm copying and pasting code. But it's my own code, so I can do that. Okay, so I got the RESTful manager coming in. Then I will have draw your UI thing. So this is what is meant to draw my UI. What time is it? Time flies. See, it's almost 45 minutes that we have been doing this.
That's all right. This has been interesting stuff. And if anybody who's watching this and just dropping in, Sam is essentially working through a basic Xamarin app, is try to teach us all Xamarin. So if you are new to Xamarin or just curious, you have questions about what's going on, feel free to ask, and we'll help you out.
Absolutely. All right, so build is successful. Now, when we run it, we should be rendering it through the new app and our new page, not the main page. But this just gives us a separation so we can have other pages and call things appropriately. So let's see if it works again.
And Sam, the stream froze up, so I haven't seen your screen for the last 10, 15 seconds.
I see it up on my side, like could be a network blip on yours, maybe.
Okay.
Okay, so I still have data. Do you see the stream yet? It's coming. Maybe,
I am.
maybe refresh.
Yeah, I'm refreshing, and I do see the data
Okay.
now. Yep.
All right, so now we can boldly get rid of our main page because we don't need that anymore. Delete. Delete. All right, so main page is gone. We now have a model. We have views, and inside of views, I have one page called post list. How would you like to have more pages and deal with that? So let's do that. Where did we stop? This is our manager. We will like to do some posts back to that thing, but let's do something where we can click on it and see something. So in my list view, so this is the Telerik list view. So what I'm using essentially is, like folks in this chat room, if you want to see what I'm doing is I'm pulling in our list view, which is part of Telerik UI for Xamarin. So it's not the inbuilt list view that comes with Xamarin. It just has a few more features that I like. You obviously do not have to use it, but you should. It's real nice. So that list view, that's the one that I'm pulling in because I have the Telerik NuGet package right here in my dependencies. And if I go down here, see that Telerik UI for Xamarin, we will use the Xamarin Essentials, and we are obviously using Xamarin Forms. So in here, I think there's this thing called selection mode. Yeah, selected mode. So when you're rendering a list of things, you can have like multiple selections or you can have single selections. Like if you had like a multi-select thing that you wanted to throw up to the user, you could have multiple selections. But what I'm trying to do is, like, when you tap on something, what is it called? Clicked? No, tapped. Item tapped. There we go. So what I did was I'm adding a tapped event to my items collection in the list view. So if I go back to my code behind now, you will see there's an item tapped thing. And this is where we can actually pick up like what you tapped on. So hang on, let me see.
So are you gonna have you tap in a post and you go to like a master detail style?
I was trying to show you like maybe a tabbed view or some other type of page. So this event args, this is what's giving us like the exact item that you tapped on, and I'm also trying to show you like how to take stuff from one page to another page. So I think if I can write posts, so let's do selected post equals. Now this is where the syntax gets interesting. I think I can do just e dot item, right? But it's not going to like that because it's not of that type. It's of the type list view, but I think we can force it into a conversion. Or does that work? Yes, typecasting. Exactly, classic typecasting. So what I'm essentially doing is like this is through the event handler thing, so it automatically raises the item that you tapped on, and that's the one I want to take. So this is going to be interesting. What we're going to do is actually let's do this void thing is not nice. We need to make it async and then void. All right, and now we could go await. Now, what is it called? Navigation manager? Maybe navigation dot, yeah.
I remember the name.
Push async, or we are doing a push. So I think it's push. And I'll explain what this is doing. Let me get the syntax right. What does it need? It needs a page. Okay, so we can say new. We don't have a page yet, so we'll have to make that. Hang on. Let's go into views, and we're going to add a new page. So now let's do maybe let's do a tabbed page. So if I come in here and do post details page, new, right? So that gives me a brand new page, but we have to hook this up. So now we can come back to the navigation and we can do post details. But we would like to maybe carry some things into it. So we would like to maybe take the whole selected post into it, and then we will adjust the constructor on that new page to receive that thing we are sending it. Is that good syntax?
And I'm just trying to follow. Where did navigation come from there?
So this is where it's built in. So this thing is coming from, let me see if I can go to declarations. So this will actually go straight into the Xamarin Forms framework. It's a framework element. So it does have some parts of like MVVM design pattern built in. Like you saw data binding, like I can have a list of objects and I can bind it to a list view. I have two-way communication, some message requesting in a form of a bus pub sub model that's built in, and then there's also navigation which is built in. So these are some things you get out of the box with Xamarin Forms. So that's a framework element that I'm using.
And presumably that came in from one of the using statements.
Just right here,
towards the top,
Xamarin
and like
Forms.
some of the
it's part of Xamarin Forms. So
Gotcha.
in here, it's complaining that I don't have a constructor, so that's fair. So let's go in here and give it a constructor. So if I can go into Xamarin 101, what is it called? Views? No, I need the models. And in here, let me leave that default thing in if somebody wants to call it. But I mean, maybe we won't need the default, so we can simply say, what is it called? Posts. Okay. So at this point, I have a constructor that takes in an instance of a post, and that's what I would like to send from our side, which let's see if it compiles.
Okay.
Okay. So that's good. So what this one is doing, this looks a little awkward when you first see it. So there is a navigation class built in, and what it's doing is it's just trying to do the very basic navigation. It's not very testable, but it's a good place to start. It has the simplest of things. Like this goes back to our like data models that we had learned in our early days of like going through school maybe, or learning programming. Do you remember LIFO? Last
LIFO?
in, first out.
Oh,
that's what it's doing.
yeah.
So you disappeared from the stream for a second. That's not good.
Yeah, I did.
That's not good.
Yeah, so basically you're pushing that view on top of the like navigation stack, right?
I can still hear you. Why are you not showing up?
And presumably there's also going to be ways of doing like configuring transitions between the views as well as part of that same API.
It's a slightly different API, but yes, you totally can do transformations. So why are you not showing up? That's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. Your fix for the Skype resizing was kind of working, but I didn't jump around, but I did like resize a few times. But it was fixing itself up until about 5 minutes ago when I just vanished.
That's no good. All right. No, that's fine.
That's all right.
I need you. You're my wingman as I stumble through code. So I'm going to go ahead and delete you and just add you back.
And for anybody just joining us, we're essentially building up a Xamarin app. So I'm not a Xamarin person. Sam is. And he's teaching me some of the basics of Xamarin. So we've covered building up a simple app, doing some data binding. So we built a data bound list. Sam showed off how to sort of how the architecture of a Xamarin app, what that sort of looks like. So we did that. And he's just started on a second view, and now we're working on basically navigating from one view to another. And then Skype decided to randomly make me disappear. So Sam is working on getting me back here, and then we're going to look at what the navigation looks like. So if you do have any questions of anything related to Xamarin or C# or what we're doing here, feel free to reach out and let us know.
Exactly.
It looks like Sam is fixing me up. I'm sort of moving around the page right now.
I'm trying.
Sam, what webcam are you using? Because your quality seems pretty decent, better than what I've got going.
So mine's a Razer cam. Let me lock you in first. Yeah, you're sort of in a corner. So this is the Razer line of products. So it's a gamer thing.
Okay.
Let's see.
Because I've got just like a cheap Logitech camera, which works, but
yeah. No, I mean, I've heard good things about the Logitech one, but it's called a Keo.
Okay.
This guy. So it's got a little light to it, so that kind of helps. And then it kind of essentially sits on top of like a monitor or whatever, and then it's a little adjustable.
Okay.
So that's what I have. Okay, so you are back. Your background is not quite nice, but that's fine.
Good enough.
Yeah, we'll move forward. Okay. So, yes, you were asking about navigation. I actually do not know a lot about the transformations, but we can look into it and we'll do it together. But essentially what I did was I brought this in, and then I'm doing this navigation by default. It's last in, first out. So essentially it's just a stack, nothing more, just a stack. And when you go from, let's just say you have two pages. This is what we have, page 1 and page 2. When you go from page 1 to page 2, you push page 1 into the stack, and then when you come back, you pop it. That's it. And then it's, again, if you keep pushing, then the last one pops out. But the thing that I need to do, if I can remember this thing right, is change this. So what we did in the app.xaml.cs when our app was first starting up, we said start on this page. And that's a very explicit and static declaration, which we don't want. We actually want this to be a navigation page.
Okay.
And in here, we want it to be the post, what is it called? Post list is what I called it. I think that's the right syntax. Maybe not. Oh, I need to close.
So if you create it as a navigation page, that I'm assuming you do that so that you can get certain like method calls related to
and you're
dealing with navigation.
And you're instantiating that stack essentially.
Okay.
Okay. So do we have all the pieces? Let's go into the post details page because we want to be able to see that we did something. So it's got 3 tabs. Okay, we'll figure this out. Why is it complaining about tabs pages? No, that just seems like a warning. We shall see. Let's go here, post list, and let's put a breakpoint right here, and then fire it up.
Okay. And in theory, at this point, we should have everything we need to navigate from one page to another.
Right, and also back. And I think this is the nice part about it, because it actually caters to iOS or Android. So if I click on one, okay, so I do hit the breakpoint, right? So we tapped on this, and let's check our selected post. This should just be one. And this is Latin, so I can't read it, but it looks like it. So that's the post that I selected, and then I'm going to just hand it over to this other page. And
okay.
Yeah, we went there. So this is the post detail page, and essentially I have tabs which don't have anything yet, but you can clearly see this is the other page that we're on. And then do you see the back button here? This is the nice part. So if I hit back, I'm back, right? So let me take off this breakpoint. So this is, like I said, this is customized for iOS and Android. So if you did this on Android, you will have Android-specific nav on the top. I think Android still does it at the top, but these tabs, the tabs on Android, I think will show up at the top. And then I forget what the nav pattern is in Android, but this part you don't have to do by yourself because we are using that stack. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So far so good. And where is I'm losing one of my my keys because I can't say hooray yet. All right. What do we want to do? Oh, let's deal with some data, and this may be where we call it quits today, and then we'll keep building on the tabs next week. So let me show you what we were doing, and that's where's my manager? This guy. So every time you open this app, right, we are coming into the first page now, and we are doing this get posts call, and we are firing off a call to that RESTful endpoint, and we are bringing down data. What's wrong about it? We're doing it every time. We don't want to, right? Because we want to cache things as much as we can. So there are multiple ways in which you can do this. Multiple ways, honestly. In fact, I think Xamarin Essentials has something built in. Let me see. This is Xamarin Essentials. So these are all the APIs that you get, and it's quite a bit. Like you have probably 30 or so API access layers. So I think there was a thing about geolocation camera, obviously. Is there a thing about storage? Maybe they moved it outside.
Secure storage. That's
where do you see it? I see. Securely stores data. Okay, so we can do this. This is auth token. But I know a shortcut. Definitely, this is something you can do. And then if you have, let me show you just the basics. And then if you have more complex data, which is relational or non-relational, and you want to put it somewhere nicer, then if it's relational, you can bring in SQLite, which is just a quick and easy package that knows how to store relational data. And this we are actually writing on file, like on disk on your phone, Android or iOS. So you actually have to give it like the folder path to write to, but there is a shortcut to this. And I'm going to forget the syntax, but let's try doing it anyways. So this is my posts, which is my observable collection. In here, what is the thing? It's application is our thing dot what is it called, resources? No, I have to look up my own code, so hang on, bear with me. I've done this. Let's look at any other app that I have. Where is AppXaml? Let's look at views, maybe. I know I've done this in this project. Oh no, maybe it's in the view models. Hang on.
And so essentially what you're trying to do is just cache this on device.
Yes.
And I think then the $1 million question is, how do you know to get new data? Would you just add like pull to refresh, or?
Yes, you can do all of that. So application dot current dot properties. Yeah, this is what I was trying to get at. So this application object, this is something that stays around with you throughout the life cycle. So you can use that anytime. And in here, we can do something like, say, posts collection, right? Equals, my Alexa woke up for some reason. I don't think I said anything about Alexa. Right? And then I can just give it my posts. Do you like that? No, you don't like that. What do you mean I can't do this?
Application current
save
properties.
Did they change this? This could be a new API.
And presumably this, like, under the hood is getting access to the iOS or Android,
yes,
whatever, to save these. Presumably there's like some sort of SQLite option on that you could tap into.
This one is bare bones. It just does JSON. It is not SQLite, but you can bring it in. But let me try writing this up. So it's not liking something. Asynchronously persists dictionary in the application object. That's what I'm trying to do. Why are you not letting me? Okay. Yes, I can also do an await. What is that?
Oh yeah, it's asynchronous.
Yeah, but it's not taking in any parameters. That's super weird. How am I supposed to pass this in? That's the dictionary. See, it's an I dictionary, so I'm trying to write it as a key value pair. It only has a get. See that? So this is kind of a C# thing. So it doesn't actually have a set, so it's not letting me do that. Did they change this? Because
Okay.
my older code is old. So yeah, I cannot assign. So in the chat room, Emerald Dimir, hey, how are you doing? I know you joined us several times on several of our older streams and then on the quarantine coding. So thank you for tuning in. So I am trying to write, and it's not letting me write to that properties dictionary because it doesn't have a setter. It does have a save, but it's not letting me do all the stuff that I want to save. So let me go through this URL or this API. Asynchronous persist application properties dictionary. Okay, if I don't have a way of setting it, how are you going to persist it? Resources.
Says that most probably that properties dictionary is initialized internally.
Yes, it is initialized, but we were able to add to it, but now it's not letting me add. Set binding. That could be something. But I don't see a way of passing it in. It just doesn't take any parameters. This is weird. All right.
So, like, just so I can understand what you're trying to do here, because you're saying if the response comes back successfully, you want to save the data off, and then presumably in the method where you actually get that data, you would then check the cache first,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And see, thank you, Emerald Demon. I think what was suggested is the thing to do. Properties.add. Okay, so they took off the setter. Hang on.
Ooh, that API. I hope that API works because it looks way cleaner.
Okay, I got properties dot. Okay, so it is a dictionary, and oh, they just took the setter away. Fine, fine, all right. So I can. This is where I can have a key value pair. Okay, so this is where I can do a post collection. Thank you so much, Emerald Dimir. You are super helpful and godsend. All right, so that, and I can give it the whole my posts thing. Let's see, does it like it? No, doesn't like it. Cannot convert a string.
Doesn't like a string there?
It's just the name of a.
Oh, do you need
I see.
to?
It doesn't like this one. It just likes the key value pair just as is.
Yeah, passing them both to.
All right, geez, just one line of code, and it still doesn't like it. What is it now? Oh, because that's not available. The save thing was available. Geez. Okay. Are you happy now, Visual Studio? Yes, Emerald Dimmer is saying the same thing. Yes, thank you. Okay, so TJ, what this is doing is clearly I could not write C# today, but this properties thing essentially is an I dictionary, so it's a easy way for you to kind of stick things in and out. And I'm noticing that you are looking funky in your background. That's not good. This is Skype's fault. So give me a second to fix you up. I thought I had you down.
That's all right. Skype is moving me around and resizing. You can see my lovely green screen here in the back that I have propped up. I have a very professional setup here.
Mine's not much better.
So I do think I need to get the nicer camera that you have, because I struggle with lighting in this room. Because in a sense, I've got big windows on either side of me, which is really great for natural light, but it's not great for videos because the light needs to be coming like right at me without it from the side. So
yeah, there are folks who have real nice like lights that they prop up on the floor, and then that just lights up the thing in the background. So that's a nicer thing. Something to consider. I also do have like a big window, which doesn't help at certain times of the day. All right, so where are we? So this TJ is a collection, simply a dictionary of key value pairs, and you can stick things in, and you will have access to it throughout. So it does get written out on file. Like if your app goes into sleep, it will actually get written out on the metal. But you can have access to it like when your app comes back. So this is something you can do when your app goes to sleep or other times. But you can really do this anytime. So essentially, this is where we are fetching our data, right? So when we do the get posts, we should say this whole part is fetch from cloud, right? And so before I come in here, so now we can check if application dot current dot properties. Now how do I access this thing? Is it like that? Yep, that's the key. Okay, so posts collection. If this whole thing, maybe we can just do a null check. I'm sure there are clearer ways to do this. Hang on, I'll fix it up. Oops.
Emerald wants to know, is data fetched whenever the back button is clicked?
This is, we are doing this on this get posts. I am calling this from the draw UI, which is something every time you see this page, essentially. Every time we come to this page, we're calling this method. So yes, when you go to the second page and when you hit back, you will call this again. So where were we? All right, so I'm not typing something right. So Visual Studio, that's fine. Let me see what exactly I'm not doing right. Okay, I got about 17 more minutes, TJ, before I have to get lunch out for my kid.
We can do this. You got this. Yeah. All we got to do is get data from the cache.
Yes. Cannot implicitly convert the type object to bool. Oh. So this whole thing is an object.
So you need JavaScript. JavaScript can make anything a Boolean.
Yeah.
Whether you want it to or not, it's going to do it.
All right, hang on. Let me look up some code that I have written in the past. So what's a clean way to get this out?
Like a getter? The array access seems kind of weird to me.
Okay, so I can do a contains key, so I can do that. And then we still have to check on that if it does have something. Does it have the current? No, hang on. Properties dot contains key.
Hey, Michael Crump's joining us also.
Hey, good old friend Michael Crump. How are you? Hey, what's up? So for those of you on the chat room, Michael Crump is a good friend of both me and TJ. So he's in Seattle. So hello, Michael. Good to see you. All right. So where are we at? So that's my posts collection, and so essentially I'm just going to check on this. Like, does this have that key? So does my dictionary have that key? If so, let me try filling up my post. So the nice thing is the serialization and the deserialization is free. So I think I can literally say application dot current dot properties and
then presumably if you find this, you short circuit the rest of this, then
yes, exactly.
Return.
So this whole thing is going to be on else.
Yeah, we're working on building up a Xamarin app. Sam is teaching me Xamarin from the ground up.
Geez, I'm teaching myself because I really don't know what I'm doing.
It's okay. This is a lot further than I would have gotten, and we've got we've got an app with 2 pages. We're navigating between them. And now we're working on fetching the data from the first call so that we're not going to hit the endpoint over and over again. And in theory, we're going to cache this and then return from the cache the next time around. If this works correctly. We haven't tested it out yet.
All right, so I'm going to do a forceful casting. Does it like that? Yes. Okay. So, so this is my sort of my manager class where I'm trying to deal with a certain type of data which is coming from a RESTful endpoint, and it's giving me some JSON back. So on my get call, I will first check. So let's do check local. So if I do have that key, I'm going to try getting that property unhydrated or rehydrated back. If so now if so I did already initialize it, so if it is just not something that's there, maybe it'll just do a null, not equals null, then I can well, I don't think I need to, because like even if it's null, like it's going to be null. It's just going to be empty. So I think this is moot. So we are fine. So at this point, I am either going to check and get this my post thing, which is something I'm newing up right here. Hey, Michael is saying, how are things going? We're good. It's not a nice little project, Michael. It's just a super simple Xamarin app that we're trying to struggle through, but it's real world. We just started from the scratch with absolutely crappy design. We are trying to bring in some MVVM. We don't have a framework yet that we have brought in. We're trying to at least clean up our design. So we have models, views, and view model folders, and we're trying to do things right. Use Xamarin Essentials next up and try to do a post to that endpoint. Okay, so logically, TJ, am I missing anything? Here's my collection. I'm rehydrating it from here, or I'm fetching it from the cloud. And either way, I'm returning just an empty post or a filter post. That's it?
Yes, you move the return out of the else. Yes. Yeah, looks good to me.
All right, let's put a breakpoint here.
Pretty confident this is going to work first try.
Let's see. I got 12 more minutes.
Sorry, you're only going to need like 2, because once this runs and just works flawlessly, then we're good to go.
So what this is doing, like this dictionary, it just does basic serialization, deserialization through what is built into C# and .NET now. It's thinking. Okay, so it did hit that. Hold that thought for a second while I try to debug through this one. So this one, it's saying, hey, I don't have that key, because this is the first time we're trying to run that code, right? So let's put a breakpoint there and let this go. So now it's going to go.
And Emerald is saying that casting local storage via the as keyword instead of doing explicit casting will be more safe.
Yes.
So that after that you can check for null.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. Okay, so here I actually did go out to the cloud. Here's my collection of 100 posts, and I want to write to that thing, which is done.
Yep.
Okay, and now let's fire this up, let it go. Here's my data, and let's go to tap on one thing, and now when I hit back, it's going to repaint that first page, and the draw UI method will be invoked, and it's going to try getting the post. So let's do back, and oh no, it's cached. It actually did not hit the initialize, which is nice. But here's what we can do. Let's pause it and let's fire it up again, like as if the app went to sleep, and then we can come back and let's see if it persists.
Wait, what happened? I didn't quite follow. What went wrong there?
Nothing wrong. When I hit back, it essentially didn't try to repaint the page altogether. So I killed the app, and so it does not persist when you completely kill the app. Okay. So essentially what's happening, I mean, we are doing things right essentially here, but then I cannot make it like redraw the page when I come back, which is again a good thing that I don't have to repaint the page because you are just on that page when you did the navigation. So how can we...
Are there like other events you get in Xamarin?
Yes. Let's see. So this is the page you're going to hit. Like this is the constructor. I think there are things like on page painting. I think there's a thing.
Oh yeah, because you're just calling that in the constructor. So
in the chat room, Emerald, I know you know everything. So if I can have a page load event, if you remember off the top of your head, on appearing.
yeah, I don't know the name of it.
Okay, so if I do override on appearing, there you go. Okay, so what if we do this draw UI thing? We move that out of there and we do that on here. Which again, I mean, I'm doing this wrong because I think what you you want that default behavior where Xamarin is not painting the whole page just because you went off somewhere and came right back to it. But this one should fire every time we try to draw our page now. Okay, let's go again.
Why don't you have to say this dot draw UI? Is that implied, or?
It is implied because it's right here, but you really should. And I don't have a reason of making that thing public because nobody else is calling it.
Okay.
But I'm lazy.
But yeah, at this point we just want to see data.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so draw UI is called first up when you hit the page. That's good. And we're hitting that. That's good. And we're hitting that. So we are getting the collection from the cloud, sticking it into our dictionary. Now,
Okay.
when we tap on an item, we go to page 2. And when we come back, we hit the draw UI again, right? So that's what we wanted. So now, when we try to draw the UI again, we're going to hit that collection. And now let's step through. Yes. So
Moment of truth.
Yeah, see that? So it does have that key. And then let's step through and rehydrate. So now my posts is not something I'm fetching from the cloud. I am just literally getting it from the storage dictionary. And I may have to read up a little bit on like how long this was. This is persisted. So Emerald Dimmer in the chat room is saying, looking at email. How dare you look at email when I'm coding?
How can you look away?
You're seeing a maestro at work struggling through every piece of character that I type. No, it's all good, Emerald. You didn't miss anything. I was just trying to see how I can trigger this get thing. Essentially what we did was on the page itself, and this is something maybe to keep in mind, like this constructor is called like when the page is first initialized, right? But when you navigate away from the page and you come back, it's not been like reinitialized. So that's why it didn't call my the painting part of it again, and that's for good reason. You should not have to repaint all of the pages UI just because you came back. It still has the page. Remember that the LIFO thing we talked about, TJ? So the stack, essentially the navigation thing, when you push something in stack, it's very much alive. It's in memory. So the whole page and all of its visual tree, it's held in memory. And when you come back, you don't need to repaint it because you just like pop it out of the stack and you have it. So what we did here was just kind of forced it to call our draw UI method again, so I can check if I can get the data from the local hard drive or my phone, or we have to go to the cloud to fetch it. Okay, so
and yeah. I'm also guessing that my guess is that that's cached forever. Like I don't think that timeout is gonna. And I think actually it might even be that data can persist outside, even beyond like app reinstall. I can't remember exactly, but my gut is that that's not that data is not going to time out in any way. Essentially,
no. But
so I think like in a real world app, you'd probably need some way of like either maybe you store like a timestamp of like last checked along with the data itself or something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe Xamarin has something built in that can just do that for you.
I don't think it is like the timestamp thing is built in. Let me see. I'm trying to read up on like how the dictionary is persisted. So looks like it is serialized to a file. So it's like that particular named file on iOS. So it is writing to disk, but I think it's tied to the application's lifecycle. So if the app is killed, it will still persist, but it won't persist if the app is like uninstalled, obviously. So Page notification, page appearing is what we were using, page disappearing. The application base class provides the following features, which is what we did. No, that's not what we want. So I think it is, so the values stored in the property store aren't actually persisted permanently, correct? As long as the app remains alive.
Oh, so the app alive, so if the app gets killed, it goes away?
No, it is writing to disk. It's serialized to disk every time when the application goes to sleep. So they're back when you load the app back again.
Okay.
So this is a clear answer. And essentially what it's hiding from you is like pointing to a specific app file name that you have to do in iOS. It just knows where to write. So that's the nice part of it. And iOS and Android may be inconsistent. So now we are digging into the trenches of the internet to figure out how you can encrypt things. Save properties. This is also something we were trying to use, but I think, I mean, it should be persisted. And again, like if anybody knows like other ways, let us know. But I think it is persisted in file. So what we did here was we literally took a C# collection. It was a collection of objects, and we did the JSON serialization. So you see this one here, the Newtonsoft JSON. This was one that we did last time around. I brought this package in, and I was trying to do the serialization, deserialization, and like I was trying to do that JSON convert. So what we get back from the cloud service, the RESTful endpoint, is just a list of posts that are in JSON, and we are converting it back into an object collection. You don't apparently have to do this because I was wrong last week. This is now built into C# and .NET itself, so you can just not use Newtonsoft JSON. But when the application current.properties this add, when I'm adding this whole collection to that as a key, it is using the C# JSON serialization to write it out, flat it out as a file, write it on disk for iOS or Android, and then bring it back up when you need it, when you need to read that key again. So I think that's what it's doing. All right.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. So like in terms of what we accomplished today, we now have an app with master detail, some data caching.
Yes. So what
some
we are
better
not
app
doing
structure.
yet, we are doing better app structure. So so far I don't have a view model to drive it, but we did put our stuff in models, and we do have 2 views. So what we need to build next time round is maybe going to the second view, which has those tabs. Maybe we can pull up the details for the thing that you clicked on, and maybe we can put like a hamburger menu on the first page that shows us like to navigate to other parts of the app. And we can do an HTTP post if you are posting to that endpoint. And we could use Xamarin Essentials to maybe like read up your location before you post or something. Or one of the things that's actually nice is like before we try doing anything in terms of network, this is one thing that I always use. It's called connectivity, and it's super easy. Like before you make a network call or you try to post anything, we should all check this. So essentially just one line of code, connectivity.network access. This essentially means like internet means you do have some network, and then you can dive into like what type of network you have. Is it Wi-Fi? Is it broadband? Is it your cellular connection? And then you can take other actions. But this like one line of code is an absolute must before you do anything else. So we are missing that. I would like to bring that in. And before we kind of create an HTTP post and we fire it off, I would also like to check that you do have internet connectivity and then fire it off. So that's where we are at. TJ, thanks for persisting with me as I fumble through API changes. And yeah, I mean, stuff that you do like maybe several months back, things change because the APIs changed. Like the properties collection doesn't have a setter anymore, so you have to do the add, which makes total sense.
Yeah, well, thanks for showing me the ropes. And if you're watching and you found any of this interesting, make sure to follow us to get notified of these streams. And if you scroll down on the screen a little bit, we have a calendar built into our Twitch dashboard. I don't know, whatever this section is under the stream itself, so you can be notified of new streams when they come up.
I can bring it in. So
yeah,
this is what TJ is talking about. Like we have a calendar right here. So every week, at the start of every week, you should be able to come and check out all the things we are doing. We normally try to go every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Thursday. So that's just the bare minimum. So thank you. I think I am at time to go get stuff out for my kid, his lunch out. So thank you for hanging out with us, and thank you, DJ, for joining me as I code. So I appreciate all of you.
No problem. Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye bye.